Hello Patriots, I'm at Restored Republic via a GCR update compiled by Judy Byington. The storm is upon us with the ferocity of a black swan event that will redefine the fabric of our nation. Martial law is operational, EBS countdown has begun. Prepare. Israel is last. Julian Assange on Telegram. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Obama and Hillary Clinton were a 16-year plan to destroy America. They're high-level puppets in the big picture. Julian Assange on Telegram. That's how they get people to willingly give up their freedom and support their own downfall. That's how they divide the people and build the army of sheep. That's how they convince people you can change genders. They are doing this to the whole world to implement their one world government and install their one world leader. Trump isn't just up against the deep state in America. He's up against a worldwide network that infiltrated America 155 years ago. This is an unconventional war to free the world from the cabal control. It's bigger than just arresting the names we all want to see. It's about dismantling the old system of control piece by piece and replacing the pieces without crushing it. There are crimes without a statute of limitations and crimes that have not ended. Everything has to go through the process. That's why you saw investigations first, and now indictments are starting to roll out. On the world stage, Trump is hitting cartels and a terrorist regime that extorts ships for using a free shipping lane, chance, and murders the Iranian people that don't fall in line. I know the Israel-only crowd is going to hit the comments talking about how Trump is controlled by Israel. If you want to listen to that, it's on you. I do want to point out something out, though. The Black Pillars talk about the Rothschilds' link to Israel, but they don't talk about London or Switzerland. When people want you to zoom in on one part of the map, you should zoom out and look at the whole thing. Even in checkers, you don't focus on one piece. Wednesday, May 20th, breaking. The deep state crackdown begins. Mass arrests and secret tribunals underway. Gitmo now on Telegram. The storm has arrived. High-profile arrests are flooding Gitmo. Deep state operatives are being rounded up, and the world is on the brink of an unprecedented purge. This is bigger than anything before. Secret military tribunals are running at full force, and the list of names will shake the world. For years, whispers of military tribunals and deep state arrests were dismissed as conspiracy theories. But now Gitmo is overflowing, and new detention centers are popping up worldwide. Honduras, Spain's Santa Cruz Islands, Antarctica's hidden military base, all filling with traitors who once ruled from the shadows. U.S. military takes control. The Supreme Court has been bypassed. The Insurrection Act has been activated, and secret trials are happening under military jurisdiction. Justice is no longer delayed. It is here. Gitmo alone is at full capacity, forcing military forces to relocate thousands of deep state operatives to offshore black sites. High-level names are being interrogated. Deals are being made. Some won't make it out alive. Mass tribunals. Who's next? The Biden regime's handlers are panicking as military operations accelerate. Convicted traitors are facing swift sentences. Executions have begun. The list of those already sentenced will leave you in shock. Names like Comey, Brennan, and Gates are only the beginning. The dominoes falling fast. Gitmo overloaded with new arrests. Antarctica, a frozen prison for elite traitors. Fort Worth and Puerto Rico, secret holding sites for domestic conspirators. Emergency broadcast incoming. Be ready. The next phase is about to go public. The global deep state is in freefall. Their network is collapsing faster than anyone predicted. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. They never thought she would lose. They never thought we'd fight back. Global currency reset. Tuesday, May 19th. Bruce, the big call. We will have new rates on redemption center screens on May 20th, 2026. Exchanges for Tier 4B will begin Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 20th, 21st, 22nd of May, 2026. SIM holders are sovereigns and will be notified first and will be able to redeem first. Call centers are AI and will give you the number to call to talk to a person at a redemption center to obtain your appointment. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, breaking economic news. Trump's new American monetary system sparks massive debate over gold, XRP, stablecoins, and the future of the U.S. dollar. And Wednesday, May 20th, historic bond redemption. The forgotten wealth that will shake the financial system. The secrets buried in vaults. Wars, wars, and rumors of wars. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Julian Assange. Ukraine wasn't the first money laundering operation. Elites used Afghanistan and many other wars they started to steal our tax dollars too. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries through Afghanistan, and back into the hands of a transnational security only. The goal is to have an endless war, not to be successful. To keep wars going, to keep laundering our tax dollars. That's why the military-industrial complex is fighting President Trump at every turn. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Hillary Clinton may finally face prison. Trump orders full declassification. President Trump has just ordered the immediate release of all FBI files related to Crossfire Hurricane, the infamous Russian collusion investigation. This means that John Durham's report confirms. In August 2016, then CIA Director John Brennan briefed Obama and Biden on Clinton's plan to falsify link Trump to Russia. They knew, they approved, they watched it unfold. Hillary Clinton's campaign engineered the biggest political hoax in American history, the weaponization of intelligence agencies, the corruption of the FBI and DOJ, a conspiracy to undermine a sitting U.S. president, now exposed in black and white. Tulsi Gabbard is one of my favorite picks Trump has made. She has delivered, and she delivered again here with this powerful message. Mel Gibson on Telegram. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, RNC Chair Joe Gruters announces 130 lawsuits across 32 states to block Democrats from cheating in the elections, and more are coming. President Trump has also said he's sending out an army of election lawyers to stop the steal. Pair it with the Save America Act and the rigging will stop. Well, let's hope so. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Fox News. Spying scandal erupts. CIA accused of taking back 40 boxes of JFK and MKUltra files that Tulsi Gabbard was reviewing for declassification. CIA whistleblower claims the agency took back 40 boxes of JFK and MKUltra files that Tulsi Gabbard was reviewing. The whistleblower also alleges the CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage.
Good morning. It's Thursday, the 21st of May, 2026. And another day, another story. The exposure is going on. Everything is becoming clearer. The light is exposing the darkness. In America, along with Donald Trump, Senator Johnny Ernst has exposed that the US federal government has been losing $1.4 billion per day through fraud. These are the people who represent you. These are the people that you pay your taxes to fund. And yet $1.4 billion per day is going missing fraudulently. Now you start to understand why the whole system needs to be taken down and changed. Because there you are, working your backsides off to pay your taxes. And they're stealing it. They are fraudulently stealing it to the tune of 1.4 billion a day. And of course, the money that they steal, you have to pay back. But those days are over. The days of exposure are coming. And they couldn't come too soon, because it's costing you a lot of money to keep your mouth shut. If you sit and do nothing, you'll have to pay up and be happy. Or you can do like I've done. You can stand up against these criminals. You go, but they're senators. And they sit in government. Most of them, not all of them, most of them are criminals. And you only have to look at the current Labour Party in the UK, the current Democratic Party in the US, and a lot of the Republican Party and Conservatives, to see that their wealth exceeds their income by more than 10 times. It's a very, very good job to have. On paper, the salary doesn't look brilliant, but you only have to look at their bank accounts after a few years in office to find out these people are not what you thought they were. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. My first story of the day is an Irish politician has just gone completely nuclear against the Irish government. Ken O'Flynn blasted leaders in Parliament saying, "You blame Trump for everything, but he doesn't run this country. You introduced the carbon tax, you turned the army on the people." He then challenged MPs directly and said, "If any of you have a backbone, vote to collapse this government." The speech is now exploding online as public anger across Ireland continues to grow over taxes, immigration, cost of living and government control. Is this the beginning of a political revolt in Ireland?
Well, it's long overdue, and it's long overdue in every country. It's not just America that is fraudulently stealing money from the people. Ireland is doing the same. The United Kingdom is doing the same. Europe is doing the same. And these people need to be held accountable. I said 5 years ago that every government will fall. I didn't know how, I didn't know why, I didn't know when. Right now, we're watching the complete dismantling of governments around the world. It's very interesting to watch the people, as an example, in the UK, turn their back on Conservative and Labour, but jump into another two-party system. It's time to wake up. You don't need government, you need governance. Because in that swamp of government, it doesn't matter what the party's name is. They're all cheeks of the same backside. It doesn't matter. You can go, "Oh, there's a new party." It's out of the frying pan and into the fire, because it doesn't take 2 minutes to do some research into major players in these new parties to find out, as I've just said, all cheeks of the same backside. That's the nice way of putting it. My next story is very interesting because there's a family that have had control of the weather for many years. That family's name is the Rothschilds, or as you might call them, the Illuminati. These people have controlled the weather for years. Well, those days are over. The last 5 years, 10 years maybe, you've been able to see how they've manipulated the weather, whether it's with chemtrails or whether it's with hurricanes that are specifically targeted at certain parts of the United States. This was all part of their agenda. They've had control over the weather for a long time. Those days are over, and you can thank God for that. There's many people who've suffered huge loss in America because of hurricane this and typhoon this, and those days are coming to an end.
Next up, Belgium police have issued a dire warning to the UK after illegal boat migrant crossings surged across the North Sea. Officials warn many have military training and combat backgrounds, raising major concerns over public safety, border security and national stability. People have warned about this for years, and now even European authorities are sounding the alarm. So the question is, when will the UK finally take decisive action and secure the borders? Come on, Queer Starmer.
Well, this is all part of the exposure, because if you don't need to do that much research to realise that the Davos crew, the Illuminati, the ruling class, the shadow government, this was their agenda. It was all done to destabilise Europe, the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. It was all done to destabilise because they wanted to bring in their one world government, new world order. Digital currency, central bank control. It was all part of their agenda. And I referred there to Davos crew. Most people know what that means. These people, they meet in certain places. And obviously, Davos in Switzerland is one of them. The Vatican is another place that they meet. Bohemian Grove is another place they meet. Don't take my word for it. Do your research. Another place that they meet is in Belgium, the Chateau de Amelios. This is an old chateau. It's a very, very dark place. It's a place that they take children and let them loose in the woods and then go hunting them. Allegedly. These are the people that call themselves the elite. They're not very elite in my world, I can assure you. Do your own research. Don't take my word for it. We're dealing with people who are truly evil. I've exposed in the last few days that there are people out there that their God is Satan. It's not the God that you and I know, the God of love and compassion, the God of forgiveness, the God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's a different God altogether. It's Satan. The question is, which God are you connected to? Are you connected to the evil side, or are you connected to the good side? You can hide behind the name that I am God's chosen people. But if Satan was your God, you've been chosen by Satan. I'll leave that with you. That was the news.
Voter fraud. Wednesday, May 20th, China. Smart thermostat found connecting to election machines sending vote data to China in the Georgia 2020 election. 29 states were sending their vote data to a server in Frankfurt, Germany, owned by Clarity Elections with ties to China. I've been contacted by numerous county and election workers in voting precincts around the country, and there are unknown Wi-Fi signals in many of our voting locations. There are also hidden Wi-Fi networks that won't show up when you scan for a Wi-Fi signal. White hats on Telegram. Then Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, New Hampshire. New Hampshire Dominion-owned machines removed 6% of votes from each GOP candidate in the 2020 election. The amount of fraud that happened in New Hampshire is massive. You have to hear all these ridiculous statistics and findings. All the fraud was completely ignored by all government bodies, including the courts. Trump Truth Revolution on Telegram. The storm is upon us with the ferocity of a black swan event that will redefine the fabric of our nation. Martial law is operational. EBS countdown has begun. Prepare. Judy note, the end was drawing near. It's time for patriots to wake up. The people. Even with all of Trump and the global military alliance over 20 years of efforts to arrest and try the bad guys, there remained much to do. There was evidence that the government was still poisoning 200 million Americans daily with toxic fluoride mandated for public drinking water, even after a 2024 federal court ruling against it, verified by 24 Harvard studies and a Trump directive in January that revealed fluoride caused damage to children's IQ. There was also evidence that California's highest leaders were into Satan worship involving pedophilia and child sacrifice. Additionally, there were massive data centers operating and being built by the cabal across the nation, with the main purpose of being processing hubs for human brainwaves in order to do mass surveillance and direct energy targeting of the population. Problem number 1. Evidence that California's highest leaders were into the worship of Satan involving pedophilia and child sacrifice. Mel Gibson was preparing to drop bombshell evidence before Congress, naming Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, and the rest of California's most powerful political machine in what he says is the biggest Hollywood scandal in history. And it's on video, he said. Oh, goodness. Gibson says he has the receipts, visitation records, exact dates and locations, photographs and video that he claims expose a long-rumored child trafficking network operating inside elite California political and Hollywood circles. Israel is last. Julian Assange on Telegram. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Obama and Hillary Clinton were a 16-year plan to destroy America. They're high-level puppets in the big picture. Julian Assange on Telegram. They plan in decades. That's how they get people to willingly give up their freedom and support their own downfall. That's how they divide the people and build the army of sheep. That's how they convince people you can change genders. They are doing this to the whole world to implement their one world government and install their one world leader. Trump isn't just up against the deep state in America. He's up against a worldwide network that infiltrated America 155 years ago. This is an unconventional war to free the world from the cabal control. It's bigger than just arresting the names we all want to see. It's about dismantling the old system of control piece by piece and replacing the pieces without crushing it. There are crimes without a statute of limitations and crimes that have not ended. Everything has to go through the process. That's why you saw investigations first, and now indictments are starting to roll out. On the world stage, Trump is hitting cartels and a terrorist regime that extorts ships for using a free shipping lane and murders the Iranian people that don't fall in line. I know the Israel-only crowd is going to hit the comments talking about how Trump is controlled by Israel. If you want to listen to that, it's on you. I do want to point out something though. The Black Pillars talk about the Rothschilds' link to Israel, but they don't talk about London or Switzerland. When people want you to zoom in on one part of the map, you should zoom out and look at the whole thing. Even in checkers, you don't focus on one piece. Wednesday, May 20th, breaking. The deep state crackdown begins. Mass arrests and secret tribunals underway. Gitmo now on Telegram. The storm has arrived. High-profile arrests are flooding Gitmo. Deep state operatives are being rounded up, and the world is on the brink of an unprecedented purge. This is bigger than anything before. Secret military tribunals are running at full force, and the list of names will shake the world. For years, whispers of military tribunals and deep state arrests were dismissed as conspiracy theories. But now Gitmo is overflowing, and new detention centers are popping up worldwide. Honduras, Spain's Santa Cruz Islands, Antarctica's hidden military base, all filling with traitors who once ruled from the shadows. U.S. military takes control. The Supreme Court has been bypassed. The Insurrection Act has been activated, and secret trials are happening under military jurisdiction. Justice is no longer delayed. It is here. Gitmo alone is at full capacity, forcing military forces to relocate thousands of deep state operatives to offshore black sites. High-level names are being interrogated. Deals are being made. Some won't make it out alive. Mass tribunals. Who's next? The Biden regime's handlers are panicking as military operations accelerate. Convicted traitors are facing swift sentences. Executions have begun. The list of those already sentenced will leave you in shock. Names like Comey, Brennan, and Gates are only the beginning. The dominoes falling fast. Gitmo overloaded with new arrests. Antarctica, a frozen prison for elite traitors. Fort Worth in Puerto Rico, secret holding sites for domestic conspirators. Emergency broadcast incoming. Be ready. The next phase is about to go public. The global deep state is in freefall. Their network is collapsing faster than anyone predicted. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. They never thought she would lose. They never thought we'd fight back. Global currency reset, Tuesday, May 19th. Bruce, the big call. We will have new rates on redemption center screens on May 20th, 2026. Exchanges for Tier 4B will begin Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 20th, 21st, 22nd of May, 2026. SIM holders are sovereigns and will be notified first and will be able to redeem first. Call centers are AI and will give you the number to call to talk to a person at a redemption center to obtain your appointment. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, breaking economic news. Trump's new American monetary system sparks massive debate over gold, XRP, stablecoins, and the future of the U.S. dollar. Wars, and rumors of wars. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Julian Assange. Ukraine wasn't the first money laundering operation. Elites used Afghanistan and many other wars they started to steal our tax dollars too. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries through Afghanistan, and back into the hands of a transnational security only. The goal is to have an endless war, not to be successful. To keep wars going, to keep laundering our tax dollars. That's why the military-industrial complex is fighting President Trump at every turn. What we think we know is of Thursday, May 21st, 2026. Wednesday, May 30th, Trump was just briefed on the circle of death. The plan was to draw a kill zone around Iran's nuclear material. Anyone who enters gets erased. POTUS says a very major attack has been planned. Generals say we're on the cusp of more bombs. President Trump has notified the Pentagon to be on alert. Bombing could come on a moment's notice. So he is playing a lot of games with the Iran because he doesn't want them to know when he's coming, and he wants to confuse the enemy. And so that's why he's saying he's going to bomb, and then he doesn't, and then he says he's going to. He's totally confusing the enemy. Wednesday, May 20th, investigation finds groceries have risen 50% to 55% on average since 2020. A basket full of groceries, including items such as eggs, butter, and bread, was about $46.95 in 2020. However, now we estimate it to cost $73.07. Nassar Jassara activated on Telegram. I would imagine we'd have inflation until the new Treasury note is released. Because they're printing. The old system is because they have to. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Hillary Clinton may finally face prison. Trump orders full declassification. President Trump has just ordered the immediate release of all FBI files related to Crossfire Hurricane, the infamous Russian collusion investigation. This means that John Durham's report confirms. In August 2016, then CIA Director John Brennan briefed Obama and Biden on Clinton's plan to falsify linked Trump to Russia. They knew They approved, they watched it unfold. Hillary Clinton's campaign engineered the biggest political hoax in American history. The weaponization of intelligence agencies, the corruption of the FBI and DOJ, a conspiracy to undermine a sitting U.S. president, now exposed in black and white. Tulsi Gabbard is one of my favorite picks Trump has made. She has delivered, and she delivered again here with this powerful message. Mel Gibson on Telegram. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Fox News, just in. RNC Chair Joe Gruters announces 130 lawsuits across 32 states to block Democrats from cheating in the elections, and more are coming. President Trump has also said he's sending out an army of election lawyers to stop the steal. Pair it with the Save America Act and the rigging will stop. Well, let's hope so. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Fox News, spying scandal erupts. CIA accused of taking back 40 boxes of JFK and MK Ultra files that Tulsi Gabbard was reviewing for declassification. CIA whistleblower claims the agency took back 40 boxes of JFK and MK Ultra files that Tulsi Gabbard was reviewing. The whistleblower also alleges the CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage. Breaking special report, May 20th. Marco Rubio declares war on Cuba's communist elite. An explosive Spanish language address, AMG News. Wednesday, May 20th, boom, the new world shift, J.D. Vance. Europe can defend itself. Trump's Poland troop strategy sparks NATO firestorm. Video, AMG News. And Wednesday, May 20th, boom, special report. Florida moves to ban geoengineering. Chemtrail bill sparks national firestorm.
Good morning. It's Thursday, the 21st of May, 2026. And another day, another story. The exposure is going on. Everything is becoming clearer. The light is exposing the darkness. In America, along with Donald Trump, Senator Johnny Ernst has exposed that the US federal government has been losing $1.4 billion per day through fraud. These are the people who represent you. These are the people that you pay your taxes to fund. And yet $1.4 billion per day is going missing fraudulently. Now you start to understand why the whole system needs to be taken down and changed. Because there you are, working your backsides off to pay your taxes. And they're stealing it. They are fraudulently stealing it to the tune of 1.4 billion a day. And of course, the money that they steal, you have to pay back. But those days are over. The days of exposure are coming. And they couldn't come too soon, because it's costing you a lot of money to keep your mouth shut. If you sit and do nothing, you'll have to pay up and be happy. Or you can do like I've done. You can stand up against these criminals. You go, but they're senators. And they sit in government. Most of them, not all of them, most of them are criminals. And you only have to look at the current Labour Party in the UK, the current Democratic Party in the US, and a lot of the Republican Party and Conservatives, to see that their wealth exceeds their income by more than 10 times. It's a very, very good job to have. On paper, the salary doesn't look brilliant, but you only have to look at their bank accounts after a few years in office to find out these people are not what you thought they were. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. My first story of the day is an Irish politician has just gone completely nuclear against the Irish government. Ken O'Flynn blasted leaders in Parliament saying, "You blame Trump for everything, but he doesn't run this country. You introduced the carbon tax, you turned the army on the people." He then challenged MPs directly and said, "If any of you have a backbone, vote to collapse this government." The speech is now exploding online as public anger across Ireland continues to grow over taxes, immigration, cost of living and government control. Is this the beginning of a political revolt in Ireland?
Well, it's long overdue, and it's long overdue in every country. It's not just America that is fraudulently stealing money from the people. Ireland is doing the same. The United Kingdom is doing the same. Europe is doing the same. And these people need to be held accountable. I said 5 years ago that every government will fall. I didn't know how, I didn't know why, I didn't know when. Right now, we're watching the complete dismantling of governments around the world. It's very interesting to watch the people, as an example, in the UK, turn their back on Conservative and Labour, but jump into another two-party system. It's time to wake up. You don't need government, you need governance. Because in that swamp of government, it doesn't matter what the party's name is, they're all cheeks of the same backside. It doesn't matter. You can go, "Oh, there's a new party." It's out of the frying pan and into the fire, because it doesn't take 2 minutes to do some research into major players in these new parties to find out, as I've just said, all cheeks of the same backside. That's the nice way of putting it. My next story is very interesting because there's a family that have had control of the weather for many years. That family's name is the Rothschilds, or as you might call them, the Illuminati. These people have controlled the weather for years. Well, those days are over. The last 5 years, 10 years maybe, you've been able to see how they've manipulated the weather, whether it's with chemtrails or whether it's with hurricanes that are specifically targeted at certain parts of the United States. This was all part of their agenda. They've had control over the weather for a long time. Those days are over, and you can thank God for that. There's many people who've suffered huge loss in America because of hurricane this and typhoon this, and those days are coming to an end.
Next up, Belgium police have issued a dire warning to the UK after illegal boat migrant crossings surged across the North Sea. Officials warn many have military training and combat backgrounds, raising major concerns over public safety, border security and national stability. People have warned about this for years, and now even European authorities are sounding the alarm. So the question is, when will the UK finally take decisive action and secure the borders? Come on, Keir Starmer.
Well, this is all part of the exposure, because if you don't need to do that much research to realise that the Davos crew, the Illuminati, the ruling class, the shadow government, this was their agenda. It was all done to destabilise Europe, the UK, the US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. It was all done to destabilise because they wanted to bring in their one world government, new world order, digital currency, central bank control. It was all part of their agenda. And I referred there to Davos crew. Most people know what that means. These people, they meet in certain places. And obviously, Davos in Switzerland is one of them. The Vatican is another place that they meet. Bohemian Grove is another place they meet. Don't take my word for it. Do your research. Another place that they meet is in Belgium, the Chateau de Amelios. This is an old chateau. It's a very, very dark place. It's a place that they take children and let them loose in the woods and then go hunting them. Allegedly. These are the people that call themselves the elite. They're not very elite in my world, I can assure you. Do your own research. Don't take my word for it. We're dealing with people who are truly evil. I've exposed in the last few days that there are people out there that their God is Satan. It's not the God that you and I know, the God of love and compassion, the God of forgiveness, the God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's a different God altogether. It's Satan. The question is, which God are you connected to? Are you connected to the evil side, or are you connected to the good side? You can hide behind the name that I am God's chosen people. But if Satan was your God, you've been chosen by Satan. I'll leave that with you. That was the news.
Voter fraud. Wednesday, May 20th, China. Smart thermostat found connecting to election machines sending vote data to China in the Georgia 2020 election. 29 states were sending their vote data to a server in Frankfurt, Germany, owned by Clarity Elections with ties to China. I've been contacted by numerous county and election workers in voting precincts around the country, and there are unknown Wi-Fi signals in many of our voting locations. There are also hidden Wi-Fi networks that won't show up when you scan for a Wi-Fi signal. White hats on Telegram. Then Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, New Hampshire. New Hampshire Dominion-owned machines removed 6% of votes from each GOP candidate in the 2020 election. The amount of fraud that happened in New Hampshire is massive. You have to hear all these ridiculous statistics and findings. All the fraud was completely ignored by all government bodies, including the courts. Trump Truth Revolution on Telegram.
The Committee of 300 and the Illuminati Bloodlines. The British Empire established the Committee of 300, an international council which determines the political, economical, banking, media, and the military policy for centralized global efforts. 10 Days of Darkness on Telegram. The committee is part of the Round Table Group and is superior to groups such as the Club of Rome and the Trilateral Commission. The Committee of 300 allegedly evolved out of the British East India Company, which was established in 1727 by the British aristocracy. This group called themselves the Olympians, named after the 12 highest-ranking gods of Greek mythology.
Judy, note, the Lloyd Brunson Supreme Court case has become one of the most talked about constitutional challenges in America, and America first, and pro-constitution circles. The lawsuit centers around the certification of the 2020 presidential election and the actions of hundreds of elected officials who allegedly failed to uphold their oath to defend the Constitution. What makes the Brunson case extraordinary is not only its political implications, but the path it took to reach the nation's highest court. The Brunson brothers pursued the case pro se, meaning without attorneys, navigating one of the most complex legal systems in the world, largely on their own. According to Brunson, the case initially faced major resistance inside the federal court system, including repeated procedural obstacles and attempts to block filings. In response, the Brunsons launched legal action against the Federal Court of Utah and the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals themselves. forcing the issue further into the legal spotlight. The case ultimately reached the Supreme Court through Rule 11, a rare constitutional mechanism allowing the court to bypass standard appellate procedures when a matter is considered to carry exceptional national importance. Brunson believes this may be one of the only personal damage claims against government officials ever brought to SCOTUS through Rule 11 in American history. The case names 387 defendants, including Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Mike Pence, and hundreds of members of Congress. According to Brunson, approximately 145 members of Congress, led by Senator Ted Cruz, requested a 10-day delay to investigate allegations of election irregularities before the electoral vote certification proceeded. The lawsuit argues that refusing to investigate those concerns before certifying the election represented a violation of the constitutional oath of office sworn by federal officials. For Brunson and his supporters, this is not merely a political disagreement. It is a constitutional crisis. This case represents far more than one election cycle. It represents a battle over constitutional accountability, government power, election integrity, and whether public officials remain bound by the Constitution itself. Lloyd Brunson's fight has become part legal battle, part constitutional movement, and part cultural awakening for Americans demanding greater transparency from their government. For Brunson and his supporters, the mission is simple: restore accountability, restore constitutional order, restore the promise that no public official stands above the law. And in today's America, that message is resonating with millions of people who believe the country is standing at a historic crossroads. A different battle has begun. Lloyd Brunson's explosive constitutional showdown could rock Washington and expose 387 members of Congress. Judy note: if the Supreme Court rules in favor of Brunson, it automatically dissolves the entire U.S. administration and all of Congress, both on the state and federal levels, leaving nothing but martial law to rule until new and fair elections can be held. This demand by citizens for more transparency was made even more important in the present CIA mind control program that has been seeping U.S. taxpayer dollars and a CIA black budget accountable to no one but the cabal since the end of World War II. Taxpayer monies used to mind control the people. Declassified CIA documents have revealed a covert psychological warfare program. Wars, and rumors of wars. Monday, May 18th, Pakistan has deployed 8,000 troops to Saudi Arabia, JF-17 jets, drones, and an HQ-9 air defense system during the Iran war. Reuters. Monday, May 18, 2026, we have a link. Breaking special report. Zelensky's press secretary explodes the narrative. Cocaine claims, secret peace talks, dictatorship allegations, and the war machine that refuses to stop. Possible timing. On Monday, May 18th, Zim redemptions and GCR funds available. Tuesday, May 19th, full quantum financial system goes live. Locking down corruption forever. Debt jubilees frees humanity. Wednesday, May 20th, Trump declares Republic restored. Global arrests of elites and pedophiles intensify under martial law as the new era of freedom and health dawns. On Friday, May 22nd, the gold asset-backed currencies of 209 nations in the quantum financial system rebirths from the old fiat global financial system. Trump unveils plans for total independence from globalists. Tuesday, May 26th, the final sequence activates. 48-hour blackout countdowns to Thursday, May 28th. Monday, June 1st or Wednesday, June 3rd, EBS override ready. Stay home, order incoming. Sunday, July 19th, the same day as the FIFA World Cup final, Michael Jackson will return, but been in the Victim Witness Protection Program. EBS blackout martial law lockdowns. Monday, May 18th, 72 hours, 24 hours equals now. The final countdown has begun. Emergency broadcast system on Telegram. Starlink has executed total control of global communication satellites. All deep state backdoors have been severed. The EBS primary signal is live and locked, awaiting a final white hat go code. Last night's raids were historic. Multiple high-value targets extraction complete. Certain names you've heard for decades are no longer walking free. Their assets are frozen, their networks are dead. The quantum financial system is now only operational financial system on the planet. Legacy banks are ghosts, empty shells with no power. Humanitarian and redemption funds were moving through secured military channels as we speak. The 10 days of darkness has officially started. This is the controlled silence before the greatest truth reveal in history. Every communication device on the planet will go dark. Every screen will show one thing. What will happen when a blackout will trigger the biggest unprecedented event? The global martial law. Web 3.0 ISO 20022 on Telegram. The military will declare global martial law. They'll make sure people get food. Planes and trains will be grounded to cut off the cabal's reach. Power will briefly flicker as the world shifts to Tesla-free energy. Military tribunals and confessions will be broadcast for 10 sessions, 8 hours each. Then the internet will shut down for 10 days of communication blackout.
And this is probably the most upsetting but realistic reasons why military is the only way. Martial law. Well, the US is under martial law at the moment. Australia, under the suzerainty of the US, is under martial law at the moment. So if people are saying, what's martial law look like? You're looking at it. What you're looking at are directions for the benefit of the people by the leadership in its military form, and then one day again in a civilian form, but for the time being in a military form, doing the right things for the people according to a set of rules, and you cannot deviate from those rules. Everybody must apply. So you're looking at it right now, folks. It's just that it's not fully revealed to you.
Monday, May 18th, shutdown massive final transfer. Tier 4B ISO 20022 on Telegram. While the public thinks the government is on hold, high security operations are moving at full speed. Unmarked convoys leaving federal complexes at night, carrying sealed containers and classified files to underground military facilities. Treasury insiders report massive data migrations from legacy bank servers into QFS nodes. Accounts being reconciled and hidden assets, tagged for public release under GCR. IRS central databases offline, teams inside buildings cataloging evidence of tax fraud, black budgets and secret slush funds. Every dollar will be tracked and exposed. In several states, federal courtrooms dark but not empty. Night sessions held under military oversight. Sealed indictments being unsealed and resealed ahead of mass disclosure. QFS test payments already hitting foreign partner banks. Under shutdown cover. This is not a drill. The transition has begun quietly. The shutdown is the curtain. Behind it, the old system is being gutted and the new one is already humming. What the world will see next will break the illusion forever. Friday, May 22nd. The audit is complete. Results are classified. What they discovered changes everything, Mr. Pull on Telegram. On Monday, May 18th, Trump sat with Cheryl Atkinson and said, I want to go to Fort Knox. I want to see if there's gold in there. Then he said, they steal a lot. He wasn't guessing. He was telling you that. 147.3 ounces. That is what is supposed to be there. Real value at $4,700 an ounce, $692 billion. But the audit team that came in on March 14th under Executive Order 14271 found more. Nowhere on any ledger. Gold repatriated from the Vatican Bank, from the Bank of England, Basel, reference Knox, audit 2026314 Sigma. This is the gold that backs your new currency. The QFS went live on May 8th in 209 countries. Each sovereign citizen is issued a quantum wallet that is preloaded with their birthright value, which is derived from your birth certificate bond, your lifetime tax contributions, and the interest stolen from you since 1971. Running Article 21 of GCRA debt nullification, the algorithm is computing every mortgage, every student loan, every credit card charge with unlawful compound interest. 100,000, 450,000 to the average American. That number is being encoded into your QFS ledger as we speak. Trump said, "I want to see the gold," because he wants you to ask why. The answer, the gold is there, and 43 trillion more, and it is yours. Tier 4B notifications started 72 hours ago at redemption centers established in 12 states. Stacked 800 numbers were waiting for one sign. Trump walking into Fort Knox on camera and opening the 20-ton door. When he opens it, the UBS fires. The UBS fires, locking the QFS. When the QFS locks, your debt disappears. When your debt is gone, you are liberated. They kept you as slave for 53 years. Every dollar you owed was a lie. Every interest payment was theft. The guy who said they steal a lot is about to prove it live on television.
Judy note.
Monday, May 18th, treason exposed. Biden's own DOJ just confessed. He committed straight-up treason. A Romanian oligarch funneled $3 million in dirty bribes straight to Hunter to buy off the big guy himself. Joe Biden sold out America for cold, hard foreign cash. Israel is lost. Monday, May 18th, Thomas Massie says his election will decide whether Israel can continue buying off future American politicians. Israel is now expected to spend nearly $20 million to destroy Massie politically after he exposed the Epstein files. Massie warns that Israel has become one of the biggest threats to American politics. Says the influence must be stopped immediately. They get our tax dollars. Yeah, we pay for their retirement, apparently.
Election fraud. Monday, the 18th of May, 2026, Arizona. After the 2020 Arizona election, Republicans were granted access to examine duplicate ballots and found that 2% off all ballots examined were switched from Trump to Biden or just taken away from Trump altogether for no reason. The Biden electors then called a special emergency hearing with the judge in an attempt to only have their attorneys examine the ballots and be kept secret from the public. This ridiculous request tells you everything you need to know. The 2020 election was stolen. Monday, the 18th of May, 2026, Jovan Pulitzer drops all the data and evidence of foreign election interference in the 2020 election. Edward Snowden on Telegram. 65 foreign countries participated in attacking 7 key states and over 600 county polling locations. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, systematically gained control over the U.S. election system, described as a national security emergency. The CCP leveraged financial, non-governmental, and foreign allies, including Venezuela, to acquire influence and control over U.S. voting infrastructure in at least 28 states. Electronic voting machines were compromised and cannot be trusted to provide an accurate vote count. Millions of invalid ballots were inserted into the election. Voting irregularities and fraud occurred in 8 states: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. Media reported hand counts are not real hand counts and are easily subverted. Removing the invalid ballots and forensically auditing the paper ballots would change the certified 2020 election outcomes at all levels. Presidents, senators, congressional representatives. The only way to determine the real winners and restore confidence is a forensic audit of the paper ballots. The public's property, required to be held for 22 months. Pulitzer worked with Colonel Phil Waldron's team on this vetted data. The full report was released in January 2021 and is more than enough evidence to understand that our elections are compromised and that the 2020 election was stolen. John Christie Electric Generator generates 24 kilowatts of free electricity. Emergency broadcast system on Telegram. The John Christie Electric Generator was shown to the world in 2001, a device capable of generating a full 24 kilowatts of electricity. In this article, I will tell you about John Christie, the inventor, and how he and his friend Lou Britz came up with the generator. I will also explain to you how free electricity works and how you too can generate your own electricity at home too. John Christie and Lou Britz. Australian mechanical engineer John Christie and his electrician friend Lou Britz worked hard through the 90s to come up with their own version of the magnetic generator. In 2001, they launched it to the public as the Lutech 1000, a device capable of generating 24 kilowatts of electricity, enough to power a few houses. The main claim to fame at the time was that the Lutech 1000 was the first free energy machine to be developed to commercial stage anywhere in the world. This was perhaps an exaggeration as, although the device worked, it was far from being full tested and developed to the point where you could buy one off the shelf in the marketplace. How does free energy work? Part of the problem lies in the name. Free energy sounds almost impossible to believe. I prefer to call this concept zero point, as it is known in physics. Zero point is an area of physics that has been studied for over 100 years. Nikola Tesla, the man who is called by some the grandfather of electricity, dedicated half of his life to studying zero point. He even published his work and it met with great approval. Unfortunately, his legacy in this area did not live on after his death, due to existing commercial interests using their power to bury it. Zero point speaks of obtaining energy without fuel, from a source that is not widely acknowledged in conventional physics. It does this via the use of strategically placed magnets. Fast forward around a century later, and there has been a resurgence of interest in this area, especially in the last year or two. While Christie and Britz may have been a little premature with their commercial launch, real working generators are now being built by enthusiasts in their garages, right across the world, numbering somewhere in the tens of thousands and possibly more. How can you generate your own electricity? The average home does not need 24 kilowatts. In fact, a basic motor is easily constructed for next to nothing that can generate a good 7 kilowatts of power, which is more than enough for most households. The basic electric generator is a rotor, some magnets, and some electrical wiring. John Christie and Lou Britz made their own version, but I suggest you keep things very simple. In fact, I strongly recommend that you spend a nominal amount of around $50 on a good set of plans, which will give you diagrams and step-by-step instructions on building your magnetic motor generator. Or you can try to do it for free, which will see you spending several months on your motor, all the while still paying your monthly bill to the power company.
Trump declares America one nation under God and dissolves privately owned Fed and IRS. Dawn of the Golden Age. On Sunday, May 17th, the new gold asset-backed quantum financial system overrode final controls of the old fiat system, thereby activating GCR worldwide. Emergency broadcast system on Telegram. The cabal's end is near. They're arresting the deep state cabal and taking away their money supply with the global currency reset. Nothing can stop what's coming. Q. Quote from Marco Rubio. From our country's beginning, for as long as America has embodied freedom and exceptionalism, the soul of our nation has been rooted in the Christian faith. Today we gather as our forefathers did on this day centuries ago to rededicate our nation to God. Elderly man dies and Jesus reveals what will happen in 2026. It's an NDE story. Go back, James, he said. Tell them that the shadows are real, but the light is greater. Tell them that 2026 will be known as the time when the silence of God ended. It is not a year of political victory or defeat, but a year of destiny. Tell them to stop building their lives on the sand of human leaders, but to start building on the rock of my word. Tell them I am coming for a bride who is awake, not a crowd that is arguing. Merry note, I want to thank all of you who have donated to my channel. Your kindness means so much to me, and it does help me in so many ways. Much love and peace to all of you. Judy note, President Trump declared Sunday, May 17, 2026, the nation's 250th birthday, a national day of prayer and a time to rededicate America as one nation under God. The spirit of 1776 returns. Full Rededicate 250 program, Trump events, National Mall celebration. On Sunday, thousands of Americans converged on the National Mall to mark the anniversary with a prayer festival featuring religious music and speeches by leaders from across faiths. This is recognition of the deeply embedded history and religious and moral tradition of the country. Sunday, about Sunday's massive religious gathering in D.C. It's official as of that same Sunday, May 17th, with Pal Out, Warshin, and the U.S. Treasury taking control of U.S. taxpayer dollars. The markets were bracing for a world economic reset. 0% income tax, 0% property tax, 0% gains tax through the global currency reset, which has been released. Now U.S. taxpayer monies will be collected and dispersed under the new gold-backed U.S. Treasury. We will never go back to the old currency system. No more printing money out of the blue. All existing fiat money is being replaced. The central bank system will no longer be owned by the Federal Reserve. The cabal department's entire former slavery financial system is dead. No more paper notes, fiat. No more SWIFT. No more monetary slavery. It's official. The 2020 election has been ruled invalid. All elected federal and state officials' positions were null and void, as well as any legislation they passed. The fraudulent election was verified through an official army or military count of watermarked ballots. The Democratic Party was discovered to have worked with the Chinese Communist Party and 65 foreign countries, including Venezuela, to take control over U.S. voting infrastructure in at least 28 states, attacking 7 key states and over 600 county polling locations to swing the 2020 election to Biden. The CCP leveraged financial, non-governmental, and foreign allies to acquire influence. Electronic voting machines were compromised, and millions of invalid ballots were used in the election. And just a side note, remember the CCP is the Lee family, and they are just one of the Illuminati families that are all part of the same cabal system. Sunday, May 17th, breaking Caribbean war alert. Cuba discusses potential drone strikes on Florida, Guantanamo Bay, and U.S. naval targets after acquiring 300 military drones. Trump administration responds. Also, on Sunday, May 17th, a major U.S. Air Force airlift was surging to the Middle East as the Iranians keep acting out and playing games. Sunday afternoon, President Trump dropped this message on Iran. The mullahs are 100% surrounded in all directions. He added that the United States military was prepared to take over Iran by Monday, May 18, 2026. It's about time. Since at least 2008, when the deep state cabal took out bankruptcy on their Federal Reserve and control of the U.S. taxpayer dollars, Iran has been building up their nuclear capabilities, plus murdering American soldiers with IEDs. On May 2nd, 2011, 3 months later, on August 6, 2011, 33 individuals, including 22 SEALs, who had knowledge of the bin Laden scandal, were sent on a slow, heavy Chinook helicopter to a village in Afghanistan, where they were shot down like sitting ducks. A Stinger missile found in wreckage was traced back to the CIA. On September 11, 2012, the exact 11th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, the Benghazi massacre happened with apparent approval of Obama and his Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, they doing nothing to stop it. Benghazi was believed to be a cover for gun running and missiles to various terrorist groups. By July 9, 2015, VP Biden knew that the Defense Department had a minimum 500 U.S. soldiers with improvised explosive devices in Iraq over the past 7 years, since 2008. Yet a few days later, on July 14, 2015, VP Biden led the Iran nuclear deal that handed Iran $150 billion in cash. When Obama shipped the $1.7 billion in cash to Iran, he claimed it was part of his Iran nuclear deal. Within 2 years of the cash transfer to Iran, the U.S. government had traced some of the $1.7 billion to Iranian-backed terrorists. In reality, Iran had extorted the Obama administration for the $1.52 billion in exchange for them keeping the bin Laden, SEAL Team 6, and Benghazi massacres secret. It's amazing how much we tend or want to forget, or perhaps at least put under the rug. Below is an article I wrote back on Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. Biden's, Obama's, Clinton's, and the CIA's SEAL Team 6. Yet in the 10 years since the SEAL Team 6 and $1.5 billion of taxpayer dollars that went to terrorists, the mainstream media has continued to cover up these breaking stories. Why? Also in the 10 years since the Global Military Alliance had been preparing for a big announcement, quietly building a network of satellites and secure communications. Soon, every cell phone on the planet will be hit with 7 trumpet sounds transmitted from the Starlink satellites, bypassing the elite-controlled media channels. The military will take position, lights will go out, sirens will echo. The golden age has arrived. What we thought we knew but didn't really know, and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies, Hollywood style, and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Friday, May 15, 2026. Deep State Cabal-owned BlackRock CEO Larry Fink declares a preemptive war against American citizens who fight back against his precious AI data centers. He admits that BlackRock will control nearly all of the AI data centers being built across the United States because the government cannot afford to fund them on its own. He states many things will have to go underground. Sunday, May 17th, the Social Security Act of August 14, 1935, signed by President Roosevelt, made it mandatory, not voluntary, for employers to withdraw monies from your paycheck to save in an account for your future Social Security benefits after your retirement. For 7 years, money was collected, but no benefits were paid out to retirees. 1942. There was never a guarantee that the funds would be returned to you. What happened to the money was up to each Congress. Saturday, May 16, 2026. High-level intelligence has exposed that Hillary Clinton sold out America through top-secret special access programs on her private server. Obama ordered the DOJ to protect her to save himself. Comey covered it up for the FBI. Evidence was buried while trying to expose the scandal. This is treason at the highest levels. Sunday, May 17th, some of Hillary's worst and unthinkable crimes. Possible timing. On Monday, May 18, 2026, Zim redemptions and GCR funds available. On Tuesday, May 19, 2026, full quantum financial system goes live, locking down corruption forever. Debt jubilees frees humanity. On Wednesday, May 20th, 2026, Trump declares Republic restored. Global arrests of elites and pedophiles intensify under martial law as the new era of freedom and health dawns. On Friday, May 22nd, 2026, the gold asset-backed currencies of 209 nations in the quantum financial system reverse the old fiat global financial system. Trump unveils plans for total independence from globalists. Tuesday, May 26th, the final sequence activates 48-hour blackout countdown to Thursday, May 28th. And Monday, June 1st or Wednesday, June 3rd, EBS override ready. Stay home order incoming. Sunday, July 19th, 2026, the same day as the FIFA World Cup final, Michael Jackson will return. The Great Awakening. Update. Martial law. EBS activation imminent. GCR resets global wealth. 5D shift begins. Deep state faces ultimate defeat. The Great Awakening now on Telegram. Sunday, 17th May 2026. The world stands on the brink of a profound transformation that will rewrite society. The long-hidden plan is unfolding with the emergency broadcast system, martial law, GCR, and the deep state cabal's ultimate defeat. The EBS prepares to announce major changes as martial law activates in the final phase against corruption. This brings victory to patriots after decades of shadow battles. GCR overhauls the global financial system to correct injustices and return power to the people. The cabal that hoarded wealth is being dethroned. Redemption centers facilitate disclosures of elite crimes such as child trafficking. Military tribunals and public executions mark the corruption era's end. The quantum financial system anchors everything by detecting crimes against humanity instantly. Wealth now benefits all instead of fueling greed. Rainbow currency embodies transparency and prosperity. Funds and retirement accounts are safe in the QFS, protected from scams. A debt jubilee erases student loans, credit cards, mortgages, and old IRS debts. Financial freedom reigns as credit scores lose meaning. The transition reaches the fifth dimension of love and unity. 4-day work weeks and simpler life on New Earth replace debt slavery with sovereignty. Farmers gain $800 million compensation, weakening the central banking system. Social Security payments triple to as much as $5,000 monthly. Retirement age drops to 60 or 62. Compassionate reform restoring dignity. The IRS dismantles while housing prices revert to 1955 levels for affordability. Starlink and Tesla deliver free energy, easing costs and aiding the environment. That's in Tesla patents under the secret Space Force providing cures. Rescued children have benefited. All industries transform as humanity enters a 5D golden era of quality and prosperity. Shorter weeks support creative and humanitarian pursuits. Societal hierarchies fall, granting equal respect across all groups. Kindness becomes currency in communities strengthened by family values. EBS, blackout, martial law, lockdowns. Saturday, May 16th, urgent. The Kazerian Mafia's master plan for world domination. EBS alert, 10 days of darkness. The world will never be the same. Nisara Jasar on Telegram. In the concealed pages of history lies a shocking truth about the Kazerian Mafia, hidden from the masses. Originating from a civilization between Russia and Ukraine, they worshipped Lucifer and Baal while disguising themselves as Jews to conceal their true loyalties. Global currency reset. Thursday, May 14th. Bruce, from Wednesday, May 13th to Monday, the 18th May, bondholders and their paymasters were traveling 3 jets per hour to and from Reno for 22 out of 24 hours. Funds were in their accounts and they should have access to those funds the same time as Tier B, 4B, gets their appointments. On Thursday, 14th of May, Redemption Center leaders had a conference call that had told them to get ready for Tier 4B appointments within 48 hours. A source said that everything kicks off this weekend and Tier 4B should be notified and start immediately.
Major developments are unfolding right now, far from the spotlight, but with an impact that will soon be impossible to ignore. Tier 4B EISO 20822 on Telegram. Over the past 48 hours, select financial institutions connected to Tier 4B have begun receiving encrypted communications signaling operational readiness. Trusted sources inside international banks have confirmed that test transactions using the ISO 20022 protocol are already live in select corridors, quietly shifting large sums under the radar. Key personnel from Tier 4B groups have been asked to remain on standby with instructions to be ready for immediate action. Secure channels are buzzing with updates. Some have already seen notifications of pending liquidity releases. This is no longer speculation. The process has started. Meanwhile, several governments are holding emergency sessions behind closed doors, adjusting regulations to accommodate the new financial architecture. Insiders report that old systems are being quietly dismantled, and the first waves of asset revaluation are in motion. If you're reading this, understand, the reset isn't just coming, it's underway. The public will soon see the effects, but those paying attention.
Saturday, May 16th. That number should terrify every central banker on earth. 57. 71% of the world's reserves in U.S. dollars. In 1999 today, 57%. The lowest it has been in 80 years, and it's speeding up. Benjamin Fulford on Telegram. France didn't seek permission. Between July 2025 and January 2026, all 129 tons of gold was quietly pulled out of the New York Federal Reserve. All of the bars board the armored transports flew to Paris. They made $15 billion liquidating the old stockpile, and nobody reported it for 4 months. Next up, Germany. 1,236 tons sitting in that same vault. Risky. Last month, their former Bundesbank chief said it publicly. It is risky to store so much gold in the U.S. That's how one of our allied nations described American vaults. Saudi Arabia has signed a $7 billion currency swap deal with Beijing. Ships in the Strait of Hormuz are paying passage in RMB, not dollars. Yuan. Now, today, while you're reading this. China's payment system, CIPS, now works with 4,900 banks in 187 countries. Silently built, switched on in shade. Replacement isn't coming. It's happening already. And where is Trump at now? On a plane to Beijing. He isn't going to fight it. He can't prevent it. He will sign the protocol of transition. And in that room, the old dollar, the debt dollar, the Kissinger petrodollar of 1971 dies. What replaces it is gold-backed, quantum verified, and tied to your birth certificate trust account that has been accruing since the day you were born. They told you GCR was a fairy tale. France just moved 129 tons of proof. 57 is not a number that lasts long. Next stop, 0. GBR 17-4. The Great Awakening. As of 12:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, May 16th, the quantum financial system fully synchronized with GCR protocols, and the White House triggered the final phase. EBS signals were now live across the new Starlink satellite system, overriding all mainstream narratives. According to Donald J. Trump, EBS on Telegram mass arrests of deep state operatives continued in silence. High-profile names were already in custody and facing military tribunals. The cabal's last attempt to block the Great Awakening has failed. Trump's global military alliance was in control. Gold-backed currencies were live. Humanitarian funds were being released to the people. Martial law has been declared across hundreds of U.S. cities to protect the people. Side note, we've been under martial law, I believe, since 2017. But, at least, I know that we're under it now for sure, according to Ricardo Bossi. A 10 to 12 day worldwide blackout was imminent, followed by documentaries flooding TVs, radios, internet, and cell phones worldwide on Gitmo's secret military tribunals on deep state pedophile treasonous perpetrators. The rollout of redemption centers and quantum financial cards will follow, giving the generic public access to their new financial accounts on the Starlink satellite system. Stock up on food essentials and prayer. This is the final battle between light and darkness. Light wins. God wins. Trump wins. We the people win. Where we go one, we go all forever. In other news, Satan-worshipping deep state cabal elites in Washington, as well as in political circles around the world, were the main focus of mass arrests being done by President Trump's global military alliance. Those high-level elites in Washington now faced explosive allegations following last week's CIA raid on Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's office. Agents seized documents related to the JFK assassination and MKUltra just as they were slated for declassification under President Trump's transparency drive. The stolen MKUltra documents reinforce long-standing fears surrounding covert psychological operations, institutional secrecy, and misuse of medical or scientific authority by intelligence agencies. State elites had undergone military tribunals and were hanged at Gitmo between November 2025 and March 2026. What we think we know as of Monday, May 18th, 2026. Sunday, May 17th, boom, Hollywood detonation. Mel Gibson prepares to present evidence to Congress targeting Newsom, Pelosi, Sunday, May 17th, big tech caught stealing 30 million gallons of water to power AI surveillance data centers. While families in Georgia were begged to conserve water during a brutal drought, faced low pressure in their own homes. A massive QTS data center was secretly guzzling nearly 30 million gallons through two unbilled industrial pipes for over 15 months. This was not a billing error. This is how the globalist machine operates. These data centers are not innocent server farms. They are the backbone of the AI surveillance beast being built to monitor, control, and replace us. Big tech and their government partners let this theft slide for over a year until locals complained loud enough. Then suddenly they pay a measly $150,000 with zero fines. Your tax dollars and your resources are being funneled into machines that will decide your future while you fight for basic water pressure. They lecture you about climate change and sacrifice, but their AI empires drink rivers dry in secret. How many other data centers are doing this right now across the country? This is a resource warfare against the people. Wake up before they own the water, the power in your life. Yeah, it's time to, if you've never spoken up before at town hall meetings, and this is the time. This is the time to get mad because they're really going for your future.
The Obama administration used a powerful CIA NSA surveillance program originally built in 2003 to hunt terrorists overseas, but then used it to spy on American citizens and later expanded the software to alter election outcomes. White hats on Telegram, just weeks after Obama took office in 2009. The program called the Hammer was illegally shifted to a secret CIA facility in Fort Washington, MD, and turned against American citizens for domestic spying, violating the Constitution. Obama, Joe Biden, John Brennan, and James Clapper were directly involved in the illegal operation. Scorecard software was later added, which is a vote manipulation tool installed on the Hammer system to intercept election data and flip 3% of votes in real time during transmission from voting machines, tabulators. Just another form of election manipulation on top of many others. The system was deployed in the 2012 election and Democratic primaries, and possibly in the 2016 and 2020 election as well. The most interesting part is that electronic vote manipulation goes back to the early 2000s. In October 2000, while working as a computer programmer at Yang Enterprises in Oviedo, Florida, computer programmer Clinton Eugene Curtis was directly approached by Tom Feeney, then Speaker of the Florida House of Representatives and the company's lobbyist, along with the company's corporate attorney, to create a prototype program capable of rigging elections. The software was designed to secretly flip votes 51 to 49 in favor of any chosen candidate or race, without being noticed by election officials. Curtis states the program would be completely undetectable by county boards of elections, unless someone examined the actual source code or had a verifiable paper trail receipt to compare against the electronic totals. When Curtis initially provided a report on how to detect and prevent such fraud, including mandatory paper trails and source code reviews, the company owner, Mrs. Yang, rejected it and instructed him to hide the fraud in the source code instead. She reportedly told him it was needed to control the vote in South Florida. Curtis confirms he wrote the prototype as requested but left the company shortly afterward. He testified that such vote-rigging software is simple to create, hundreds of lines of code at most, and could be inserted into central tabulators or voting systems. During his court testimony on this very program and the fraud in Ohio's 2004 election, based on significant discrepancies between exit polling data and official results in the 2004 Ohio presidential election, plus the known availability of rigging software and lack of protective measures, Curtis stated under oath that the 2004 Ohio election was likely hacked as well. This was just the early days of election rigging software and programs. Obama and his administration continued with their own endeavors as technology progressed, especially with Smartmatic and the use of wireless internet and remote access from anywhere in the world. This has been going on long enough. It's time to end any and all of these election rigging practices and programs and bring back real election integrity. If we don't fix our elections, we will lose this country, and it all starts with holding these people accountable.
Probably most of your listeners are hearing this right now. Tina Peters, Governor Polis, has commuted her sentence. So it's a big deal within the mainstream media. What he did is he commuted her sentence. He didn't say it didn't happen. He didn't overturn the charges. He said that he's commuting her sentence to the time served 2 years and 4.5 months or whatever it is, 1 year and 4.5 months. And it's a clemency action, which, just reduces it to time served. Now she'll be out on parole, and the terms of her parole will be determined by the parole board, what she can and can't do, whether she can travel
more like
out of
what
state.
she can, more like what she can or cannot say.
Well, and that's another thing. See, Governor Polis also mentioned that the judge had violated her civil rights by saying in the sentencing that things that she said, added to the way he decided to sentence her. And he was punishing her for things that she was saying publicly. So he agreed with the appeals court that her civil rights had been violated, her free speech rights had been violated. So he noted that her sentencing was extreme because of that. And so for that reason, and because Tina confessed that she had done something wrong and apologized, please have mercy on me, then Polis is giving her mercy. That doesn't sit right, but everybody
So
has
she,
to
so
understand. Well, hold on. Let me say one important thing.
admit she did something wrong. This
Hold
is
on.
crazy.
Remember, we were fairly comfortable that with the president's pardon, she would have been out a long time ago that other things were in play to get her released, and none of those came to fruition in actually getting her out. And there are health issues, etc. So if Polis, because she is a political prisoner, totally a prisoner to both sides, by the way. Trump said he'd take extreme measures, and yet he was unable to go further than the pardon. Although the context, even right now, for Polis, why did he do this all of a sudden just now? As Peter Tickton said a couple of times in the last couple of days, he personally advised President Trump that he should give Governor Polis till the end of the month, and if Tina isn't free, then he should go ahead and exercise those extreme measures. And that was in play by everything that we've heard. Polis bunted and said, okay, let her out. Tina admits guilt, admits that she did something wrong, and she gets out. The president's pardon still stands. And then ability to appeal these things, even up through higher courts, all the way to the Supreme Court, and overturn the underlying conviction remains for her. So the fact that he's provided clemency is not the same as a pardon. The clemency, from the way I understand it, allows her to still go through the court process and eventually overturn the underlying conviction. And then her confession and all the other stuff would become somewhat moot. This is not quite the same as what happened with Flynn, where he admitted before trial that he had done the crimes and then accepted the sentencing based on his statements. So I believe that what we're going to find is that this can still all be made to eventually go away, but this allows her to get out of the prison itself specifically, not free of the parole system, and then be able to address health issues and things like that, and be in a safer environment. The parole board could still keep their tongs in her for quite some time. And being Colorado, they may not want to let go of her completely for some time for optics, etc. So the fight's still on in many lanes, but this is still great news for Tina, and in a very difficult situation, about as good as we could hope for the moment, apparently.
There's an unprecedented threat that we just found by accident. They were repairing a dam at Big Creek Lake. That is a 3,600 acre lake, a reservoir that holds about 17 billion gallons of drinking water. It is the main source of drinking water for Mobile, Alabama. And they found an explosive device just under the water line, accidentally. We don't have much more information than that, other than things are looking like they might get really serious.
See that article about the dam in Alabama, about the IED found underwater there, placed underwater by the dam in Mobile, Alabama? What, you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, let me try to look it up real quick. I just wanted your thoughts on it. My thoughts on this are, I would be checking all the dams right now. I'd be sending a diving team to all the dams across the United States, because wouldn't that be a clever way to take down the infrastructure?
Well, and of course, then the next point I would make is, well, how'd they find this one? Who let them go? Who brought them up to speed? Yeah.
Well, I think they were doing just a routine. I don't know what they were doing. Maybe they were just doing a routine thing or something. But here it is right here, Juanito. I wanted to get your insight on this just real quick. Here's the article, right? Bingo, there it is. IED near Alabama reservoir detonated after officials warn of unprecedented critical infrastructure threat. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, here's what I compare it to, Nino. Supposedly police officers saw that a van going down the road in northern Arizona or wherever, its lights were on high beam. So they pulled the van over because the people didn't put their lights down to low beam, these detectives that happen to be on another matter. In the course of talking to the guys, they search the van, and it's got, a gazillion rounds of ammo in the back. And the guys in the van are illegals. How'd they know to get that van? Was it happenstance? Well, I actually picked up about 3 vans within just a few days that were similar, transporting ammunition to the Midwest. That wasn't as happenstance as the reporting made it seem. You had the gang leaders who were arrested. They were talking, and they gave information about people within their organizations and things they were doing. That was just one example of many where gun houses, drug houses, money laundering operations were all stopped and addressed, short-stopped on things that they otherwise wanted to do. Again, we're pushing hard at every level. IEDs are kind of a Iranian thing. And Soleimani, who invented the IEDs. So if you found one, maybe you've got insights into places where others might be. It is a threat to the infrastructure, and so we're addressing it. Why has Trump taken as long as he has to move into certain areas of what we're going to do internally in the nation in policing and then also military operations to stop foreign interference here in the country, foreign threats? Because we had all of this to sift through and get through, remove these threats at the local level. There may still be threats out there, but I'll bet you they're radically less than they were 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, 6 months ago, 6 weeks ago. Okay, we're eroding our opponent's ability to threaten us. These globalistas, it's more than just little tiny terrorist groups. It's full court press by globalista to stop what's about to happen. Even the removing of documents that were slated for release by Tulsi Gabbard's office, they don't want that within these organizations, including CIA and other things, because of what it's going to do to open other doors, pull on threads that lead to all sorts of other information. So we're in the right zone. The city within the city, where the Queen, when she was alive, had to go to the gate of the city of London, take off her shoes, enter, curtsy and bow, kiss the ring, kiss the ass of the mayor of the city of London, where the square mile where all the banks are, which is the old Roman city within London with its own wall, etc. What Ian is telling you is the same thing that I'm saying to the audience here. There's a nexus of authority and control within these global networks that hasn't been recognized. Even China hasn't been their own man because the banks are controlling China. Hong Kong controlled by the Brits. Oh, we left, we're done. Hiding in plain sight, these hidden relationships and power plays that control the direction of the world, even into the finances and things like that. So there's games within the games. More of this will get exposed, and the relationships of certain people within those games. I don't need to be the internet police. Enough people, you will know them by their fruits, by their actions. So you don't have to guess. Before this is all over, a lot of these alliances are going to come out. In fact, I'll tell you one little sneaker. So I've seen a certain person inside the Trump operations that has, for all the world, he's just the greatest guy in the world. And really speaking truth about stuff going on, especially out of England and like that. Yet I know he's a paid operative to MI6.
Oh, you don't want to say who it is?
1,000%. And it's no, I'm not going to go there. But over time, that will get exposed. It will not be unknown into the media, and there's going to be some embarrassment over that, I believe, by all the parties involved. It's all going to come out.
Is he very, very close
As
to
this
Trump?
thing comes unraveled, it's all going to come out. That's the whole point, and they don't want it to come out.
Is he very close? Is he very close to Trump?
Well, we'll let that come out.
Okay. All right.
There's going to be plenty of efforts to slime and besmirch everybody. But some of that's not going to stick because the truth's going to come out. Who was related to who and how's it going? I use this as an example. If right up until Admiral Rogers presented what he had to President Trump, President-elect Trump, back in 2016, November 17th.
Be careful here.
If he had not gotten into that office and shown Trump that he was being, with paperwork showing the exact listening in on him, you would have thought he was a bad guy. He got to the head of NSA, and not an easy thing to do. Arguably the most powerful position, second to the presidency on the planet. The biggest intelligence gathering agency on the planet. And yet when he broke to the side of Trump, he showed his true alliance affiliations and gave critical information, not just to Trump, but to the country. He had to play the game all the way along. There's other people that have had to play the game, and even actions. You could argue maybe that a Brennan or a Comey or other people were in some kind of a deep cover operation to expose some of the other players, and they tell stuff. Well, it'll come out, and they won't have been who they would like you to believe, pure as the wind-driven snow. That's what this moment in time is about. Everybody gets to kind of get revealed for who they really, truly are. And even within your listenership, Nino, a lot of people that are a little bit too ready to dump Trump at the drop of a hat, as things come out more and more and more, it'll be harder and harder to side with the crews that, say that Trump has somehow lost his way or whatever. We're doing just fine. Trump's said that he will never betray us. He will never abandon us or go some other direction. I think he's telling the truth. And but some of this stuff isn't clear quite yet. The fog is lifting.
There's been a high valued source I have who there's a lot of question and chatter in certain circles, I'll leave it at that, about DARPA. That DARPA is a real good group of folks up in the military that are taking care of us. So my question to you is, DARPA a part of the military and that they are on the side of the people? Or has DARPA turned dark and given us things under an illusion like the creation of Facebook to gather our information? Define DARPA, sir, to the best of your knowledge and ability.
Well, the short answer to your question is yes to both. Yes, it's full of good people doing good work. And yes, it is a dark organization that is establishing and has established for some time the architecture by which the rest of the planet is controlled. Army Defense Research Organization, the cutting edge. But once again, if you know the name and see the faces, that means it's a front for somebody who's providing that stuff to them. Yes, there are intelligent, hardworking people. In fact, we have a DARPA in Australia, same sort of role, but would be the Appalachian equivalent of yours, let's just put it that way. At one point, I was very keen to get involved because I was excited about innovation. This is going back into the 90s. And I saw that's where I would be most satisfied in my work, diving into the future. I didn't get the job. That's probably a blessing in disguise. What do they say? Rejection is God's protection. Never got involved with DARPA. But they're both good people, highly intelligent, highly innovative, creative minds in the military, but directed towards nefarious ends and certainly applications. So it is actually both.
Gotcha. Thank you. Rudy Giuliani, published by Newsmax the other day, reported that the condition concerning his lungs. So now that narrative gets entered in, and that's when I started to say, well, maybe there's what they're trying to pull out of this. I don't know. Rudy being somewhat of a controversial figure, he was dressed in drag on a Saturday Night Live many years ago. People are having fun with that. Some people have opinions about his involvement in 9/11. We know for certain he and President Trump have been very good friends and really cleaned up New York and transformed New York from something that it was to something much better. But in either case, me personally, it's probably a bit of a script or taking advantage of perhaps an event he had. Who knows? But thank you for briefly weighing in on Rudy Giuliani, and I wish him well. All right, so let's move on. Let's look at put up that image of John and Ricardo. There they are, John and Ricardo. That's what I feel like a little bit when we do our shows. Siskel and Ebert. Analyzing the movie, rating the movie, going over the script by script to have us weigh in on the current events, where the script has to have good actors, as you often say. I don't know, their names just crossed my mind the other day. Any fun comment, Ricardo, about that?
Oh, I think it's perfect. Thank you for that. That's you couldn't communicate a complex idea more simply with that simple photograph. And look, and we both understand that there's a narrative. The narrative has to be advanced. We understand that. There's no point spoiling the end because the author has a plan and the plan has to be laid out as the author intended. But then we have other people that know what's going on behind the scenes, and we've got to meet both needs, both the target audience and those who are a bit informed. So yeah, it's a good picture. It's an interesting job we've got though. It's fascinating, and I can't help but laugh sometimes when when something weird just happens and we have to seriously look at the screen and discuss it. But look, just understand, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's a movie or real life, somebody's directing it. There is a plot, there are characters, and there is a very satisfying end in the end.
Enter anywhere you choose on the now UFO file historic released by President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you. The first thing I'd like to say is, for those of you who are trying to figure out whether DJT is a good guy or a bad guy, a black hat or a white hat, a Zionist or an anti-Semite or a whatever, if you're still trying to figure out what he is, the plan's working beautifully. And I'm not trying to be clever here, because if you're still trying to figure out where he is, perfect. Because what's he got to do? He's got to keep everybody, including us, the great unwashed who are trying to make sense of this world, confused and uncertain, because that means the bad guys are confused and uncertain. And that means it gives the good operators out there room to maneuver, freedom of maneuver around the good guys and the bad guys. So if you're confused, if you can either take this as definitive evidence that Trump's part of the guys because Werner von Braun announced to his secretary that the great deception of ETs would be revealed, and therefore this confirms that Trump's a bad guy. And on the other hand, you've got Trump's a good guy because he's finally releasing stuff we've been demanding for many, many, many decades. And so if you're confused by it and you're still trying to make up your mind, fantastic. That's exactly what they're after. Now, if we get to the actual the meat of this particular question, the whole issue of ETs and why it's being revealed, is it a distraction? Sort of, but in a good way, because this is what people want. Is it going to be a drip or a flood? I'm with you, John. It'll be slow and frustrating because, again, that's what they need to do. But there will be enough to really get people a little bit excited. Stephen Greer will finally be able to say, see, what I've been saying all this time is right. And there are people that don't like Stephen Greer. There are people that do like Stephen Greer. He's the individual for those who don't know. Stephen Greer's been working for decades. He's a physician. He's very dedicated to revealing this. He's had many programs, reports, documents, testimonials from people who can verify reports. And so he's been one of those dogged pursuers for some time. So again, is this going to prove that Stephen Greer's a good guy or a bad guy? Neither. Sit back, watch it, make your own mind up. Now, that opening slide you've got, there are no ETs, and they don't like being called aliens. They like being called ETs. Gosh, how do I know that? They prefer ETs. Just let's leave it there. Do ETs exist? Are they demons? Okay, first issue here. Definitions. Definitions matter. What do you determine? What do you call a demon? What do you call an extraterrestrial? From where do you get your terms? Is it the Bible? Because something strange turned up, it was a demon. It says it was a demon. Could it have been an ET? Maybe. And now, because people can't define what they're talking about, and as John said, these are foundational beliefs. This is really going to rattle people. So is this about disclosure about extraterrestrials? Yes. Is it about beginning to crack open that white knuckle grip that some people have got on their foundational ideas of life on Earth, whether it's to do with spirituality, evolution? It doesn't matter. It's all at best grossly incomplete and mostly flat out lie. There's the problem. And so this release has at least two immediate impacts. One, it satisfies people to one degree, but it starts the larger issue for me. It starts a very slow journey where people are now going to be confronted with facing a different reality in terms of the basis of their relationship to the Almighty and no Almighty. So it doesn't matter whether you're an atheist, agnostic, or a believer, this is going to start to challenge you because you're going to have to start thinking about these things in quite some depth. What does it mean to me? How do I know how to live? Are the 10 Commandments real? Was Yahweh just another ET that had a low-grade tribe of proto-humans to look after? And he wasn't a very nice guy, as has been claimed in certain books. For example, was he God? What do I now believe? Are the 10 Commandments sound? Is the Bible completely fallacious? We know much of it is. We know much of the Old Testament particularly is Babylonian satanic magic ritual. The original Hebrew religion was smashed into that, like they tried to do recently with Chrislam by smashing Christianity and Islam together. And they had this magnificent setup in the United Arab Emirates where you had a temple and a church and a mosque all together, all holding hands, where there was Chrislam but no Christ. This is, again, the old playbook, that they are not imaginative. So the existence of ETs as opposed to demons as step one, that's going to terrify just about everybody and will excite the rest. But it's beginning to crack that greatest of all fears that we have. What is my understanding of life on Earth? Because this now changes everything. Now, can you get through that? Absolutely. You can get through it. Don't sweat it. You're okay. I remember, and there's a personal example. And this was just part of my own development as a young man, I guess. And allow me just to wax lyrical for a bit here, John, if you don't mind. Excuse me. I was sitting in the officers' mess at the Special Air Service Regiment on a Saturday, watching the footy, having a great old time, bottle of Coke, packet of chips. Life was good. And as I sat there, it occurred to me, this question popped into my head, and you can guess the origin of the question. And it said, is cold the lack of heat, or is heat the lack of cold? Now, that's an odd question to hit a young captain in the Special Air Service Regiment, but it did. And so I stopped paying attention to the TV and started thinking about it. And that quickly morphed. Is light the lack of dark, or is dark the lack of light? And it started to get clarity. And then it changed to, is good the lack of evil, or is evil the lack of good? And then I ended up with, is God the lack of devil, or is devil the lack of God? And these are pretty simple philosophical questions that any junior woodchuck would ask themselves if they're serious about determining their relationship with life. The short version of that particular journey in that time of my life was I came to the conclusion, although being raised a very good Catholic, and I was a very earnest young Catholic boy, I'd go to chapel at lunchtimes at school, go to church after school sometimes as well. But then I discovered alcohol and women, and my views of life changed just a little. And the conclusion as I started this philosophical journey of my own was there is no God, and that's okay. If that's true, I had to decide, well, what rules do I apply? Because I can't just take somebody else's rules and apply them because I've been told to. That doesn't show any independence of mind or spirit. And so at the ripe old age of whatever it was, I don't know, 27, I guess, 28, something like that. I decided I had to come up with a complete philosophy for life to determine all of my thoughts, words, and deeds that were consistent with my understanding of the nature of life on earth, which is there is no God. And so I had to rebuild an entire ethical structure for myself during those few years. Long story short, and it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. There's no set value system. I said, if that's the case, even if there are no value system, is that a world I want to wake up into? Open the door and you know, I'd rather live in a happy world where, you live and let live. Let me live my life, you live your life, and let's not interfere with each other unless we're doing something really bad. And ended up with basically a Christian ethic, but based on the fact that I choose to live a good life, even though it doesn't matter one iota whether I do or not in terms of after the life. Things changed after that, and that's another story. The point is this is a journey we've all got to go through, and this is the major point of this ET exposure from my perspective. Is it interesting? You betcha, it's fascinating. Wait till you find out the types of species that are out there. There's the tall, skinny ones. There's an ET life form, you've got to call it that because it's consciousness, but it comes in the form of a gas of cloud. There's an ET consciousness out there that is super dense material that exists at the very edge of the known universe. And, a teaspoon of this material is so dense, if you brought it to planet Earth, it'd collapse the Earth. The gravity is so great. And so all these things will be revealed, and it'll get you thinking. So just so we're clear, are there ETs? Oh, yes, there are. And I'm not talking about one of my ex-wives. I'm actually talking about extraterrestrials. And they come in many forms. And for those whose mind is spinning now, don't put God in a box, please. I'm sure the one thing that he finds most amusing is when we say, oh, no, God can't do that. Yeah, God can do what he likes. So anyway, it's a fascinating time to be alive. I'm glad this is out, not because of the ET stuff, but because it is now the beginning of a serious move by the White Hats to start wresting away from people some of the most profound lies that they have bought into. And in starting that journey, which you'll make it through, relax, it's all okay, you'll make it. You're going to have to let go of a bunch of stuff, but you'll make it. But in going through that journey, you'll begin to be liberated in a way you cannot imagine. It is just extraordinary. Not necessarily easier, but you're a whole lot freer.
Thank you very much. I'd like to extend an invitation to you. I know your schedule is very busy, but if you can find the time to join us on that panel, Off-World with JMC, the invitation's been publicly requested. Thank you, sir. And Sandy will get with you as we begin to launch our premiere episode. You'll see some familiar friends that we have that'll be in that show, but there'll be some new folks that haven't crossed through my path that we're looking into right now to comment on that broad subject. Me, I'm thrilled. I just find it fascinating. Again, Siskel and Ebert. I'm watching the next script unfold, and it's getting interesting. And I, for one, won't be rattled on my grounding in terms of it bumping up against biblical issues. I know what my belief is in our Creator, and I'm very, very strong there. And There's so much we don't know. I don't know. Is it 22 books of the Bible that was kept from us, Ricardo? How many books did we rescue out of the Vatican tunnels? I mean, there's so much we don't know that we were intended to know. And this might be a piece of that. Who knows? 40,000-foot view, because there is so much going on. But we have to talk about Iran, NATO, EU, and Cuba for a moment. And so let's begin. Iran has been so fluid. It's almost day by day. Another strategy by our commander in chief is having to be deployed based on the nonsense we keep hearing out of Iran. What's the current situation there? How do you see it playing out? What's going on?
Yeah, this is really interesting, and I'll come at this with a strange approach. Our head of intelligence, the head of the Australian Secret Intelligence Service, that's our equivalent of your CIA, and the minister responsible recently exposed an online $74 million to tracking radicalization of people online. They've just woken up. There's a problem. Well done. But what was interesting out of the whole statement, this is, ladies and gentlemen, when you watch the mainstream media, watch really carefully and then listen really carefully, because the one line out of the whole thing, which was just fluff, they're going to target specifically Sunni radicalization. I went, really? Not Islamic, but Sunni. Now, there's a message in that. Why would they be targeting Sunni? Well, okay, it's the opposite of Sunni. There are many sects of Islam, but the two major, as we know, the largest is Sunni, the next largest is Shia. And where do the Shias live? Iran. So they're not targeting Iranians. They're not targeting, this is for public consumption. The Australian government is not worried about anything coming out of Iran and radicalization, but the Sunnis, which is the rest of the Islamic world. That's not a bad thing, but it's not the whole thing. So I said to myself, why? Why are the Sunnis being targeted and not the Shia? What's going on, Iran? And this, what's going on in Iran right now? I mean, that's anybody's guess, because none of us have, I promise you, none of us except DJT and his people have a clear idea what's going on. There are claims the entire Navy's gone. The claims the Air Force is gone, that they're sending out a few whaler boats with drones on them to do their best, etc. Again, I don't believe any of that at all. I think they're keeping this little wound festering because there's so much to come out of it. And it's not about the Straits of Hormuz, although, at first glance you say, well, how can one nation interfere with operation on international waters, in the sense that it's a strait, they don't own the strait, it's always a tense negotiation between neighbours when the two exclusive economic zones and Nordic and the sovereign limits out to 12 miles, when they bump into each other, you've got to negotiate that. But the fact that this has been allowed to run for so many years with Iran threatening to close it has been a big deal. But it has never really been anything other than collection of tolls, basically, as they go through it. It's a money-raising venture. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, that the black hats need money to run their show. Nobody does this work for nothing, except silly fools like me at A1. But the point is this. So what's going on in Iran right now, they're keeping it open because there are bigger issues at stake, and it has very little to do with the Straits of Hormuz. Well, that's the stated reason why it's an issue. If they needed to, excuse me, they could leave right now because Iran's under control. Anybody saying that there's still a war to be had and they're terrified that a boots on the ground will end up in tens of thousands of American deaths, they're doing that to frighten children and old ladies. There is no threat there, but they're keeping it alive in order the discussion going, in order to cover up other things. Now, I've alluded to this before, and you mentioned ETs earlier. There are extraterrestrial and let's just say spiritual and ET connections to Iran that are quite profound, that need to be taken care of as well. And that's amongst a range of other issues. We also know, courtesy of people at Promethean Action, for example, that it's a major control point for the City of London to control the Middle East. So there are multiple issues going on, and that's why Iran has been allowed to survive as long as it did. When the Ayatollah first took over and the Shah was thrown out, that was a big step forward for the cabal. because there was an obvious control. The Shah of Iran at that stage could see exactly what was going on. He actually gave an interview, I think, to CBS reporter, I can't remember, describing exactly what we know to be the truth today, that there is a Kazerian/Jewish control of the US media, amongst other things, and they are running the show. And so that he had to be replaced, and it was. And they've been doing something like 47 years, I think. They've been controlling it. So they've got to keep this wound apparently still open. It's not, but apparently still open, with nonsense discussions, because there are other issues. I've mentioned a couple, and I don't doubt there are many more that I'm not aware of. But that's why it's being kept alive. Not because the Iranians are putting up a stellar fight. They're not. They're done. They're finished. They're under control, like every country on the planet is under control. But the people beneath them have to believe that that is not the case. And that's why I started with that first comment. If you're trying to figure out whether DJT is a good guy or a bad guy, a black hat or a white hat, perfect. Because there are still the lower level elements that have to be cleaned out. I mean, we're talking about not very bright people that all of a sudden might be extremely powerful in terms of their capacity to cause dramas. And the white hats don't want too many dramas.
Yeah, some of those people that may not be too intelligent lined up for their vaccine so they can get a cheeseburger and a donut. And let's hope they've risen up the scale of intelligence since then and don't go fall for that again. But great points you raised there on Iran and the world situation. So we can be brief on these. NATO and EU, the European Union, particularly France and Germany. There's a lot I see going on there. And of course, us slowly but surely looking to me like we're done with NATO and to an extent finding out who's who and what's what in Europe. What's your opinion about that pocket and some of at least the optics that were being shown? Comment on those optics and pull the curtain back a bit.
Yeah, NATO's been shown for what it is, and he's closed the page on that in terms of the public narrative. Yeah, we asked for your help. You didn't give it to us. You're on your own. Not interested anymore. We're pulling out. Look after yourselves, which is a big problem for them, not for the US. It's good for the US, not good for Europe.
Right.
The other issue is this. You mentioned France particularly, and here's a bit of a signal. The dismantling of the control mechanisms in Europe, NATO being one, EU being another, but then you've got the Masonic filth. We call them the Masonic filth here in Oz. Now, what's that got to do with it? Well, the Masons run everything. Now, the fact that and there's an article or a court case in France. I think it started March. Started in March, where there was a Masonic grouping that were being charged with having or exercising their desires via hit squads, assassinations, for anything that got in their way. Now, this is now unique because you want to go back to the French Revolution. That was a Masonic event. The French Revolution, ladies and gentlemen, if you weren't aware of it, was a Masonic event that was intended to destroy a lot, and it achieved that objective. That's why it became such a bloodbath. What was sold as initially as the fraternity, equality, and whatever the hell they talk about in France, other than croissants, wasn't the case. It was turned into a bloodbath because the Masons needed to destroy the country, which they did. And so to have a public trial now charging a Masonic lodge with running hit squads it's sort of interesting in and of itself, but it's going to send reverberations through the Masonic organization. Their top cover, I think I mentioned previously, their top cover is gone. If this is happening, how can it be happening? We run the country, we run the planet. How can we be doing this? Because we know that a Mason judge and a Mason lawyer can never hurt another Mason, no matter how guilty they are. Even in warfare, it was found that when two Masons from the opposite sides saw each other, they didn't engage. That's how powerful this oath the Masons takes is. And so in terms of France and Europe, the Masonic control has been dismantled by and large, but now it's being shown to the lower levels. They weren't told about it, and the lower levels are now panicking because the higher levels are no longer applying that protection. Those individuals from the polity, the judiciary, the bureaucracy, the military, the constabulary, that to this point have had a free ride with their criminal activities are now being charged, tried, found guilty, and punished. And this is setting reverberations through the Masonic organization globally. They are terrified. They have no idea what to do next because this is not a world they understand. They literally run the planet, and now what? The French lodge that has a hit squad out there is being charged. They're terrified. So it's the control mechanism in Europe has been dismantled. We know that, but now it's being publicly revealed by these charges in order to show the lower level Masons who still haven't got a clue. And there are still a lot of people in the polity, bureaucracy, and military constabulary that don't know because they're not allowed to watch shows like this. I can tell you in Australia, for example, if any military officer is found watching any of Bosie's broadcasts, they get a visit. They get a knock on the door. And they get a visit from some very important people saying, what are you up to? Because you're guilty of bad things because you've been watching Bosie and Bosie says things we don't like. I got warned a few years ago, a couple of times. Don't do it. Stop it. You don't know what you're playing with. You've got to stop talking about it. Just don't talk about it. They're all sweet biscuits. They lack the moral courage to do what's right, to think what's right, to say what's right. And that's fine. But that's what's happening in Europe. The structure, which has been dismantled, is now being revealed to be no longer in control, and it's panicking the entire Masonic world. They are,
Absolutely.
Before I said there's a schism, they're fracturing now. They are literally fracturing, which is great news.
That little island 90 miles south of Key West, Florida, known as Cuba. Obviously, the people are suffering greatly there, always have been since Castro took over. And now it's extraordinarily difficult because of the operation we conducted in Venezuela and so forth. But again, I hate to say this, I'm not insensitive to the people of Cuba, but no pain, no gain. Break down the Cuba bubble, if you will, the way you just broke down NATO and Euro. What's happening with Cuba and where does it end up? Cuba's up for grabs as I see it.
Yeah, well, it's already been grabbed. It's. I can tell you the last chapter for Cuba. It's going to turn into an island paradise. The people will be set free. They'll be free to now pursue their lives the way they wish. It's going to be as popular as any of the tourist resorts you can imagine, and that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a fantastic world for the Cubans. Now, as you said, no pain, no gain. Exchange with the Cubans in the United States who are going to go back to Cuba and say, hey, this is where I want to be, and I'm going to set my business up. Mm-hmm. And as I said, if you get the health right and the wealth right, watch these countries explode into productivity and abundance. And so that's what's going to happen to Cuba. But right now, it's the image we are getting. They're still suffering. The communists are still under control. They're not really communists. We know that. This is a criminal cartel. They appear to be under control. They appear to be in control, but they're not. They're under control. Again, it's all being rolled out very slowly in order to achieve what they need to achieve. But Cuba is going to be a paradise one more time, and not necessarily by corrupt casino operators, which it was previously, but genuine opportunity for the people to live their lives as free individuals. It's going to be brilliant.
Yes. Beautiful. That was my thought process too. You can return to what it once was, as you said, perhaps to some degree, minus all the corruption in casinos, but it was a glorious island place many, many years ago. Hemingway used to go there all the time. And then, of course, we knew what happened over the last 60 years. Why has President Trump been saying over all those years, from 2016 forward,
your silence has made you complicit? I'm talking to the mainstream media. I'm talking to Hollywood. I'm talking to the politicians. I'm talking to everybody. This has been going on, and you've said and done nothing. So one more tip for people who are trying to figure out whether Donald Trump is a good guy or not. If you just open your eyes and ears, I think you'll be able to work it out. But this level of depravity, again, this is like the ET exposure. We're opening the door now. Not we, but DJT is opening the door. What's coming next will be some of this depraved information that's going to really upset a lot of people. In fact, not to put too fine a point, and I know you want to move on, But I know of two senior military officers, I won't say which branch of the military they're in, at different times over the last couple of years have discovered, and they were good people, and they thought they were doing the right things for the right reasons. And when there was a knock on the door and the truth was explained to them, that they weren't innocent, but they weren't entirely culpable, if that makes sense. One sobbed uncontrollably, and I'm not talking a manly tear, like he really lost it. The second, to this day, still feels deeply sick and wounded because he's worked so hard and he thought honorably for so long, and he's realized what he's been facilitating and been working on. And so that's what's going to happen to everybody when this, well, not everybody actually, to be honest, no, everybody won't. Only the good people with an actual conscience will feel bad and regret what they have done. The rest won't care. But that's what's coming next. And so that response is going to be more prevalent over the coming days, weeks, and months. People are going to be in a very bad way when they realize, and they see the evidence. And everyone said, you'll go as far as you want to go. But as the truth comes out, there's going to be increasing anger, and that's already started. We're getting more and more people online sounding like me when I get all salty in my language. There's a lot of that more coming out now, and people are discovering it. So buckle up, it's going to get untidy.
Thank you. Yeah, look, to say we are in the phase of disclosure is an understatement of the century, and we're watching the world wake up and the various impact on how they're processing truths that have been undisclosed. And I took a little list of things here to remind our viewers of what, and this is a short list that I just did off the cuff here, but what are some of the big things that are happening right now at this phase of these battles? Well, we have the arrest of Comey and the low-lying fruit, we'll call it, and the FBI. All roads lead to Obama. We have the president on the record stating Obama committed treason, and we know what the punishment for treason is. We know military tribunals are ongoing. We know military tribunals are swift and not bought and paid. Treasury Department, long press release, if you will, about the new currency, and nowhere in the press release did the words federal and Federal Reserve show up, but President Trump's name and Scott Bessent did on new currency. People are anticipating in July 4th. We'll see when it comes out. And then we close out with the reveals of Christy Teigen, as you just stated, questionably a woman, and all that entails that are still in the Epstein files and the Epstein issue. Not a lot of talk about it right now, which means a lot is actually going to be done. So you just threw a smattering at the dartboard, if you will, of some of the events that are happening. So anyone who thinks or still clings on to nothing's happening, maybe you got the 66-point IQ like that poor guy they used to set up in Australia, because things are happening, folks, in a very big way. And that brings me to this. Let's put this post up to my producer, please. This will finally give Derek Johnson credit due. Anybody running, this is your commander-in-chief, Donald J. Trump. Anybody running for president or vice president should be forced to take a cognitive examination prior to entering the race. By doing so, we wouldn't be surprised that people like Barack, in quotes, Hussein Obama, or sleepy Joe Biden getting, quote, elected, quote, elected. Yep. Our country would be a much better place. I took the exam. Here we go. And this is why I put this up. The president says, I took the exam 3 times during my 3 terms as president. There you have it. So those that threw Derek Johnson under the bus, and he doesn't need me to defend him, say what you will about Derek and so forth and so on, but I know of nobody who's done a better job than Derek Johnson at understanding the law of war manuals, the PEDS, the executive orders, the history of these things, how they work, and how they're being explained to us, or he's helping us at least match it up to current events. But there it is, President Trump himself, 3 times. And as you know, Lieutenant Colonel Bosey, The president also schooled the generals and admirals by saying that what that dash represented on the cap. But here it is, 3 terms as president and aced at all times. He's speaking about the cognitive test, an achievement that even on a single exam, according to the doctors, has rarely been done before. President Donald J. Trump. This is the wrap of our show. With any other closing comments you'd like to leave us with, Ricardo. But I find this post, it's just a drive-by post. This should be front page news, right? And even people in our movement probably missed on this. Well, we already knew it. But what do you think of this? I find this fascinating.
Yeah, your rundown of all the evidence is overwhelming, and the 66 IQ comment, if people are offended by that, tough. I'm sorry, but seriously, the time has come. Time to turn off the TV and start reading for a change. But the 3 terms of the president is a lovely way to finish. The truth's out there. If you want to watch it, most people still won't buy it. They just won't. Because there are too many. It's too much too soon for just about all of them, and that's why the last thing that's going to get their attention is their money, because they genuinely won't be shocked if they're not shocked at if they're not shocked at full-term abortion enough to look into it, if they're not shocked in. So if you like the idea of your country being cleaned up, if you like your idea of the political class and the bureaucratic class, the legal class, the military class, the police class that run us being cleaned out as they are, we're seeing that as well, and seeing it done effectively and efficiently, that's fantastic. It'll take some time, but you'll eventually get there. We're in great shape. You're under martial law now. It's happening. It's just not fully revealed, and it doesn't need to be.
As was Iran, as was Ukraine, as were we.
Yeah.
Yep. So, no.
Yeah.
And so,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So, what with the situation with Russia? Of course, Europe is just baiting Russia like crazy, and they're trying to build military. They don't really have much of an economic or military industrial system anymore. After what all that they've gone through with Ukraine and all the funding and all of the stuff with the Green New scam and shutting down their nuclear reactors and all that stuff, they're not very viable, especially Germany and France. They're pretty much gone from some of the major powers of Europe to pretty much not able to do much at all in that area. And so they can't really mount an offensive, but they can make they do have, of course, France and UK and others have nuclear weapons. So they could, say, get a near death event, near black swan event, as it's called, like the Cuban Missile Crisis standoff. And I do think it's probably the dark hats are going to do it, and the white hats will let it go to like the Cuban Missile Crisis just near the last moment, and they'll stop it. So, because there's certain type of people on Earth, there's only one of 2 ways to wake them up, and sometimes it takes both.
Yeah.
To get them out of their complacency of, I got my yacht and I got my cars and I got my mansion and I got my my little house in the mountains or out on the beach, or I got everything, and I don't care what's going on in the world. Doesn't matter to me. Epstein, I don't care. And the files, I don't care. And and I got to do this. I don't care, as long as I have my barbecues and my resort stuff and all this stuff. They don't care. And so the other way, their bank account goes to zero. Everything they own goes. They have no money, no stocks, no nothing. It's all gone in the blink of an eye, like in 1929. That's why Trump posted that little movie of 1929. It all goes away in the blink of an eye. That wakes them up, because now the little houses in their house and their yachts and their things, they don't own them anymore. They're all gone. All the ownership deeds, titles, everything gone. they're freaking out of their mind, like 1929, jumping out of high buildings, you know? And
Yeah.
so, yeah. So, and then sometimes it'll take both to do that. So it may come to both at the same time. A black swan event with an economic collapse. And then it'll all come back after the appropriate amount of time, which is the white hats know. I don't know what that is. They've gamed this out on, a super AI. So, how long? It can't be too long, or the black hats will take it and win. It can't be too short, or the point never is made. And so it has to get to the point where it wakes up all of those people you can wake up. There's 3 to 8% you can't wake up, but the rest of the people got to go. It's got to get so bad they will go never, ever again. And it may be different in different countries. The U.S. may not be economically broke, bankrupt. All the banks has collapsed. The stock market, all of that. As long as, say, Europe or the Australia or those places, they might, especially the UK, it might take quite a bit longer there. But again, it can't be too long. There's a certain interval which they've gamed out, and they know what that is. So, yes, I do believe that not only is that likely to happen, it's pretty darn likely, because I don't think there's any other way that it can be done. I don't see how else. I know certain people like that they're not going to believe anything until it's the stark reality has terrified them